The woman suddenly discovered her husband's banana had gotten bigger, as if he'd become a different person entirely. His behavior had also grown strange. Despite being married for over 10 years, with her husband having long lost interest in her, everything changed after his recent business trip. He kept giving her creepy looks, quickly averting his gaze whenever she caught him staring, pretending nothing was happening. He also started touching her frequently. At first, Susan didn't think much of it, but then her husband forgot their daughter was allergic to cold medicine. Despite his constant explanations, Susan's suspicions were aroused. Yet the face looking back at her was identical to her husband's. What on earth was going on? That evening, when her husband tried to get intimate, Susan discovered he couldn't even fit into his wedding ring. He claimed he'd gained weight, but this lame excuse was hard to swallow. Combined with his recent odd behavior, Susan began to wonder if this man might not be her husband at all. Just then, her phone rang. Susan quickly got up to answer it. To her shock, she heard her husband's voice on the other end. He claimed someone had stolen his face and was impersonating him. Susan was stunned. Before she could process this information, her husband sensed something was wrong. He frantically grabbed the phone from her and started cursing at the caller, claiming it was a scam. Watching her usually mild-mannered husband become so aggressive, Susan finally knew for certain this man wasn't her husband. She immediately grabbed their daughter and fled the house. The man stood there frozen in shock. If Susan went to the police, his fake identity would be exposed. It turned out Mark was a plastic surgeon who often traveled for work. This gave their neighbor Tom the perfect opportunity. Tom had always lusted after Susan and wanted her for himself. That night, he made a mysterious phone call. The next day, as Mark was leaving for his business trip, his rideshare driver suddenly slammed on the brakes. Mark lost his balance, and the driver took the chance to drug him unconscious. His fate was sealed in that moment. When he woke up 20 days later, he found himself in an abandoned building. Mark stumbled home, only to discover his wife and daughter didn't recognize him. While he stood there confused, a man picked up a vase and approached him. To Mark's horror, the man looked exactly like him. Before he could react, his wife hit him from behind, knocking him out. When Mark came to, he'd been dumped in an alley. Unable to understand why his wife had attacked him, he decided to go back and get answers. But passing by a store window, he finally saw his reflection. He had a completely different face. No wonder his wife didn't recognize him. But who was that man in his house? Determined to uncover the truth, Mark went straight to the police station. Just as he arrived, some people nearby got into an argument, and the officers rushed over to intervene. That's when Mark noticed the wanted posters on the wall with his current face on them. Before the police could spot him, Mark quickly left the station. With nowhere else to turn, he returned to his plastic surgery clinic and grabbed some emergency cash from his office. Not knowing who was behind this and now being a wanted man, he had no choice but to hide. Little did he know, the mastermind was Tom, the man impersonating him. Tom had always wanted Mark's wife for himself, which is why he'd had Mark kidnapped and surgically altered to look like a wanted criminal, while having his own face changed to look like Mark's. But Tom's habits were completely different from Mark's. He'd carelessly left his wedding ring on the bathroom counter, when Mark never misplaced things. This immediately made Susan suspicious. Then he gave their daughter the wrong medication, something Mark would never do. Susan's doubts deepened. That night, when the real Mark called and told Susan the truth, that the man in their house was an imposter, the opening scene unfolded. As Susan tried to leave with their daughter, Mark intercepted them. He insisted he was her real husband, but Susan didn't dare trust anyone at this point. Just then, Tom burst out of nowhere, and the two men started fighting. During the chase, Tom was accidentally hit by a passing car and killed. Afterward, Mark took a paternity test with his daughter. Not only did he clear his name, but he also won back his wife's trust.